This is 1 in 54, a presentation of Anderson Center for Autism. 1 in 54 is a weekly show devoted to topics related to autism spectrum disorder.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 54, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism. And this morning I am speaking with Seth Sirota he's an owner, a co-owner of a company called STAYnEAT, and we're going to be talking about one of your products. But Seth, good morning. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Eliza.
So I have the pleasure of meeting a great number of people who are doing really interesting work in the field of autism in all different ways. And one of the ways that I meet folks like you is because colleagues of mine from Anderson are out and about, and they know about this podcast, and they also are out and about meeting people at different trade shows or conferences. And I believe that's how you met my colleague Tracy, who came back and told me how excited she was to meet you and hear about this product, which again, we're going to get into in a few minutes. But if you wouldn't mind, I always like offering our listeners a little background. So I'd love for you to just tell us your story and go back as far as you want and bring us up to the today.
Okay, so my name is Seth Sirota. I'm from Long Island, New York, Suffolk County. And I'll go back and I'll tell you as far as my professional career, I have a background on Wall Street. I've had a number of jobs over there as an accountant and ended as a trader for one of the major hedge funds on Wall Street. The best thing that happened for me on Wall Street, honestly, was meeting my soulmate, Michelle. Michelle and I worked together.
Well, I like that. I just have to interrupt already to say that's my favorite Wall Street story ever, probably. Love on Wall Street. Okay, keep going.
Well, that's the truth. A lot of people are miserable on Wall Street. I have found that money does not buy happiness, and the game of life. The most money doesn't win, right?
Right.
So Michelle is the most important thing to me from Wall Street, and we've been married since 1997. And Michelle retired in 99, and I left shortly after the Trade Center went down in 2002. Yep. So after that, I took a year off and I became a teacher. I taught business out east on Long Island at Eastport High School for a year, and a year was plenty for me. So after that, I was figuring out what could I do. I didn't want to go back to Wall Street. I didn't want to do that commute of an hour and a half one way and spend my time on a train. So I went back to what I did when I was 17, and I installed columns and railings on Long Island. And it used to be Martet Construction, Marsha and Ted.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
My parents. And my father was a high school teacher, phys ed and health. And what I did is I renamed the company and called it STOOP-IT. Stoop-it.com, STOOP-IT.com. So I redo stoops, columns, and railings on Long Island.
Okay.
And that's what I do currently. So through the years, we had two children, my daughter, Alyssa, and my son, Matthew. Matthew is on the autism spectrum, and he's the inspiration behind our invention. So we started this invention in 2010. I've been working on it part-time ever since, more of a hobby than anything. But right now we're trying to get into it, more because there's such a demand for this plate. So having said that, my wife and I were watching Matthew. We were observing him eat at the table one day, and we noticed Matthew didn't like his foods touching. He had problems loading foods on the utensils.
Yep, often very typical thing that we see. Yep. Sure.
And also he had an occasional temper tantrum where the plate and the food would end up on the floor, and we didn't like that.
No.
And he didn't like that.
No.
Yeah. So we took a pencil to paper that day while watching him, and I drew out what would be the world's first reversible sloping plate. And this is what it looks like.
Very cool. And I'm going to stop you there because we're on Zoom, so I can see you, but our listeners won't. But I want to tell our listeners, if you go to the following website, STAYnEAT plate, and it's STAYNEATPLATE.com, you can see a video where you can, and pictures of the plates that Seth is showing me right now. And I urge you to check out that video. It's extremely informative. Go ahead. Yeah.
So this is the world's first reversible plate that's two-sided, sloped, and divided. It solves all of Matthew's issues and many, many more for all ages and abilities. I met your coworker at the Abilities Expo in Edison, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And everybody came to me after the show and said, "What do you have there?" Everyone was at my booth, so we sold out.
Great.
Yeah. So we did really well at the show, and we always do. I do them sometimes in different states and to show it around. But the plate is amazing because we have a patent on the perpendicular rim on all plates. So by having a perpendicular rim, it will not flip or tip no matter how hard it's hit. Mm-hmm. It also acts like a plate guard, keeping food on the plate, not off it. And it dramatically increases the plate size because of the vertical rim instead of a raised rim. So the plate size is, if I have a 7.5 inch plate, the plate's pretty much 7.5 inches because there's no useless raised rim, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm thinking about my plates, and actually the new plates I just bought do not have that. And I like them. And now I know kind of why I like them. Okay.
Yeah. So it keeps the food separate, which is terrific for us, all people and picky eaters. And in addition to that, if you turn it over, it has a slope side where the high side stays dry. So what that does is it solves, let's say, the pancake issue, right? Where if you put pancakes on the top and syrup on the bottom, the syrup will always stay on the bottom of the plate. So what we say is take a dip back to your mouth, ends the trip using a side scoop wall. So it also has a side scoop wall. So this plate has so many benefits. And the most impressive benefit is that it doesn't have suction cups, and people always wonder, like, how do I suction it? Yeah. So all you have to do is just press the center of the plate to make it stay and lift the edge to take it away. And that's how that works.
That is amazing. How does that describe that? How does it work? What are you, when you're pressing down in the middle, what is happening?
So the plate is actually a very large suction cup. Press the center, it could actually lift a piece of granite.
Nice. All right, listeners, I'm watching this. Go to the video and you will see it also. Again, it's STAYNEATplate.com with an N, the letter N instead of the word and. STAYNEATplate.com. That's very cool, Seth. Okay, so the first thing that's just jumping to my mind while I'm watching this and listening to you is you were inspired by your son, Matthew. And the number of people that I've had the chance to meet by doing this show who are parents who are inspired to do any number of things because of their child or their loved one with autism is high. There's a lot of families out there who are recreating or finding some creative thing within themselves based on observations of their own family member. This plate, to me, it goes well beyond, helping somebody with autism. I read on your website that there's, you've got testimonials from people who have loved ones with Parkinson's, with stroke victims, people who are struggling with partial or complete blindness. But also I'm thinking of just young children who were learning how to use a plate and a fork and a spoon. I mean, just that ability to scoop without getting it everywhere. That's so frustrating for kids and for parents who are busy doing so many things and they want their kid to be independent. But I remember raising my kids. Sometimes it was just faster to keep feeding your kid instead of letting them experiment.
Right. So this plate really goes well beyond what any other plate has to offer. There are many plates that have suction cups, but all you have to do is grab the tab, I say, and it loosens. And kids do it all the time. Yeah, there are other plates that look institutional. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And there are other plates that have suction rings. Yes. So the STAYnEAT plate is really a self-feeder for all ages that stays in place. So STAYnEAT means that it stays stable and neat while you eat.
Nice. Right? Oh my goodness.
STAYnEAT.
Somebody in your family is also a writer because you can't make that stuff up. That's great. Great marketing as well. But again, so many things. We only have about 2 minutes left in this part of the show, in this half of the show. Talk to me about how much thought went into the look of the plate. You just talked about how there are some things like similar to this, not the same, that look institutional. Why did you, how much time did you spend really thinking about what you wanted this to look like for the people who'd be using it?
Honestly, years, a couple of years through various prototypes and drawings and just a lot of effort to get it to look beautiful like it does. It looks like a real plate, but it really does much more than a real plate. We actually say it acts like a utensil because all you need is one hand to eat off this plate. right?
Yeah.
Even the edges are non-skid. You don't have to use the suction if you don't want to. All other suction plates, you have to press them down. This doesn't have to be used as a suction plate. It will always stay stable. So it won't flip or tip, and it won't slide either.
Okay, so the suction is really just added benefit. If
That's
you really
it. You
need
just
that
press the
feature.
center if you need more suction, and that's it.
And that's it. If you're looking at granite, which, you never know. But
Yeah.
so that's very cool. And again, just to describe it to our listeners a little bit, what I like as I'm watching it, and when I went and checked out the video, is that it comes in a couple of different colors. But when you're thinking about, we at Anderson, we serve children and adults with autism. And one of the things that we've heard for years, and we think about also a lot, is sort of quote unquote age appropriateness and making sure that even if there's an adult or an older student, maybe 18, 19, 20 years old, who enjoys playing with or watching things that are typically associated with a younger age group, honestly, we come down to, by and large, it's sort of, if the person likes it, the person likes it. That's individual choice. And everybody, whether they have autism or not, is an individual. However, there are some devices, tools, utensils, accessories that society has sort of created that look a certain way. And if you happen to be an older person who still benefits from the use of something that was sort of created in the marketplace for a younger child, you have this struggle of like, I don't want the princess plate, or I don't want the superhero plate, but I still need what's being generally created for a younger audience. So I just wanted to share my appreciation with you for creating something that is it is beautiful. It's very classic and timeless. It comes in a few different colors. Yes, red and white, and I think blue, right?
And two sizes as well. We made this to look really beautiful so that people would feel like they belong at the table, not using some sort of institutional or some sort of childlike plate mat or something like that, where all you have to do is just lift the edge. Who wants to really eat off silicone?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stop you there because we're done with our first half, but you said it way better than I could have said it. That's exactly what I was getting at. And I appreciate that. We're going to come right back to more 1 in 54 with Seth Sirota from STAYwear, and talking about the Stay and Eat plate in just a minute. This is 1 in 54, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and we'll be right back.
I've got a math question for you. When you add tolerance, subtract prejudice, and multiply efforts to treat one another with respect, what do you get? Less division. And school sports have it down to a science. Looking for an example of what can happen when we realize there's more that unites us than divides us? Look no further than high school sports in New York.
This message presented by the New York State Public High School Athletic Association and the New York State Athletic Administrators Association.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
And now 1 in 54 continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs program presented by the Anderson Center for Autism.
Welcome back to 1 in 54, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky from Anderson Center for Autism, and I'm speaking today with Seth Sirota from STAYwear, co-owner of STAYwear with his wife, Michelle, and developer of this really cool plate called the Stay and Eat plate, which obviously I'm very excited about. I love it when either products or experiences, really any number of things, have implications that will help the autism community and benefit a huge swath of people. I think while it's really important, I think, to continue to focus on things that we can do and learn about and bring a broaden awareness about and appreciation for and acceptance within the autism community, I also think that there's this fine line between where you have to also, I think it's beneficial to recognize that so many things that are beneficial to all of society are also beneficial to people with autism. It's not like either or all the time. Sure. So your plate just kind of makes me think of that. So we talked a little bit about the development, the background, some of the features. you said that you go out on the circuit to some of these expos in multiple states.
Yes.
What is the general reception like? And I'm curious, do you get a specific question kind of over and over and over again?
The question I get over and over again is, God, I wish I thought of that.
That's not exactly a question. That's more just a big compliment. Good for you.
Yeah, there's a couple words that people always say. This needs to get on TV, on Shark Tank, or one of the other shows. This plate's amazing. It's genius and brilliant. These are the words that I hear all the time about this plate. Yeah, because again, it's the most functional plate you'll ever own. It's good for ages 3 to 103. People with tremors, Parkinson's, MS, limited eyesight, Alzheimer's. It could be used on boats. It could be used on RVs, everywhere.
Camping trips. Exactly.
Yes. And it comes in 2 sizes, 7.5 inch and a 9.5 inch.
Okay.
And,
I know I read something on your website about the type of plastic that it's made from, and also let's talk practical stuff. Is it, do you put it in the dishwasher? How do you wash it? How long will it last? That kind of stuff.
Okay. So, this is made with the most expensive plastic you could find. I don't know if you could see this. This is called Triton by Eastman Chemical. Yeah. I'm showing you a transparent version so that you could, Triton is called the other glass. It's better than any plastic. Okay. So it's used on all the high-end water bottles, and we use it for this plate because I'm all about the best. It's got to look perfect. It's got to be made perfectly, and it's got to be made from the best materials because it's for our children and for our parents, for example, and for anyone that's likes to separate foods, picky eaters, for example. So Triton is made by Eastman Chemical. They donated a couple thousand pounds actually to get this off the ground because they believed in it so much.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we had another version, and then I actually went to a nursing home, assisted living, excuse me, and they said, "Boy, that would be great if you could fit 4 ounces of food in each section. Could you make one with 2 dividers?" So we scrapped the old mold and came up with this design, and we make it with 2 dividers and a big area, so 3 sections and in 2 sizes. Okay, and now it will help all ages.
Okay, perfect. And if is it dishwasher safe?
So Triton is dishwasher safe, and it is BPA, BPS, PVC, lead, and phthalate free. I will never say to microwave plastics, but if you go on Amazon, people have asked, and of course the people have said yes, you can. But during the making of the STAYnEAT plate from 2010 to now, in 2015, right in the middle, I had cancer. I had lymphoma from the World Trade Center.
Oh,
okay, so what happened there is, I had time to, play around with it a little bit more, get different prototypes, look at materials. And I worked all throughout having cancer. I had 3.5 months of chemo. I'm 6 years in remission right now, and everything's terrific. But I can't say microwave it because when you microwave plastics too much, they tend to leach out some chemicals.
Things change, right? Yeah, that makeup change.
And it can be toxic. So nobody should ever heat or cook on plastic. Okay, you could heat it on a separate, glass tray or something like that, or bowl or plate, and then transfer it to the STAYnEAT plate.
Okay, so it's not a problem having hot food on it.
No, not at all, and it's totally dishwasher safe. It will not warp a crack in the dishwasher. If you see it in person, you'll understand how sturdy it is and durable. How long will it last? I've had it for years. It really is scratch resistant. It lasts. This is not a toy like all the other plates out there for children. Sure. This is a real functional plate.
So thank you for that. And a question about a little bit more personal, going back to Matthew. So how old is Matthew now?
Matthew's 19.
He's 19. Okay. So how old was he when he first got a chance to try the plate?
Probably in 2016. So 5 years ago.
So about 5 years ago. So maybe he was 14. Yeah. Did you and Michelle notice, and did he notice a change in his eating habits, his enjoyment of eating? Was there something very obvious that changed for him when you introduced this plate for him?
Absolutely. He loved it because you could eat with one hand. The plate didn't move. And we showed him about the suction. He's very smart, and he actually had fun with it, and he liked to do that.
Okay. Well, yes. I mean, that's great. So it's something, an activity and a meal. I think that age also is really interesting because here he is, he's a young man. He's in the middle of, his teenage years, which is when you often see appetites, it's a very important thing. And what we see here at Anderson a lot is when kids start to get out of that, really young child phase, and they start going through puberty and enter adolescence and young adulthood, you can see increased frustration sometimes just purely based on the fact that they're hungry. I mean, you think about any person as they grow usually goes through at least a couple phases, different times in their life when they need more calories, and it's really going to become challenging in a lot of ways if they can't. And so the idea that what I was getting at is did it fill a gap? One area maybe where he was struggling, where he just generally feels better.
Yeah, well, now he could eat independently.
Yeah.
He eats independently, and it's easy. Yeah. All he does, honestly, we could put pancakes on the plate, the syrup on the bottom. Matthew, like most kids, don't like foods touching. Mm-hmm. It changes the flavors and consistency, and it might be unpleasant to them.
Yeah.
So Matthew, we just set him up with the syrup and the pancakes we cut up for him, and he honestly just does his thing with the fork. He'll go down to the syrup, sometimes swirl around. He'll use the side scoop wheel to load it. He doesn't use two hands. He doesn't use a knife. He doesn't need to. And that's the same. I mean, if you go to the other spectrum with stroke victims, for example, or people with tremors having a hard time loading food onto utensils. This is a vertical wall, not a curved wall. So the food doesn't ride up the wall. It hits a brick wall and goes right on the utensils.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really good point. And for people who, for maybe many years of their lives had complete independence with eating and then lost it, maybe through a stroke or through developing something like Parkinson's. I think there's a whole nother layer of frustration and sadness, maybe even, depression over that loss. It's not just one type of loss. I think from what I understand, it's a loss of sort of over time of I used to be able to do this and now I can't. I would imagine that one of your long-term goals or maybe short-term goals is to see this in use in so many different locations, individual homes, but also maybe assisted living, maybe nursing homes, maybe hospitals, maybe schools, places like Anderson, like a residential program where we have cafeterias and we have certainly a number of students who probably would agree with some of what Matthew brought to the table in terms of picky eating and not wanting things to mix and struggling with that fine motor ability. So where are you at this point? I know on the website, I think they're $14.99 a piece if you order them.
$14.99 for the small and $19.99 for the large. And then there's a discounted set price.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you fully stocked?
Yes, we have stock. It's also on Amazon. And, I call myself a single. In other words, there are no investors in this plate. So it's hard to get out there, especially when it's not my field. Mm-hmm. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I have an autistic son, and anyone who knows autism knows that that's a 24/7 job.
Yes.
Okay. So by having another job, a seasonal job, like I described earlier, and then having an autistic son and another business, it's almost impossible to do alone.
Yeah.
Well, we don't thank God we're financially okay. This is more, like I said, a hobby at this point. But because we've had a number of possible deals, we're looking to license it. Or sell the IP to someone that could really take it to its full potential, the next level. It needs to be scaled. It sells every day on Amazon. It sells every day on the website, and we just need it to scale. But that costs a lot of money and a lot of time. And my wife and I, honestly, our priority is Matthew. It's not about money. Yeah. So that's why we really haven't done too much with it now. But we have done the shows like the ASHA, American Speech Pathology, and the AOTA show, the Occupational Therapists Association.
Sure. It all makes sense.
I have to tell you, they eat it up. Literally. They love this plate. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you do license it, you need to stick around for some of the jokes and some of the plays on words, because you're great at that. We're just about out of time. I just want to again do one last shout out. Go visit STAYnEATplate.com or find it on Amazon. If you want to read more about it, check out the video. Potentially make an order. But from what I saw, I mean, I like I said, this speaks to me on multiple levels, mainly just as a human person who thinks that everybody should have as much as they need in order to achieve independence, no matter what challenges they're facing. So I think it's great. I love your story. And I wish you and Michelle and Matthew and Alyssa all the best for your future. And again, visit STAYnEATplate.com or go visit it on Amazon. Seth, Sirota, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, this is 1 in 54, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and remember, Anderson cares.
You've been listening to 1 in 54, a presentation of Anderson Center for Autism. Join us for another edition of the show at the same time next week.